What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate. First ranch, no hate. So, I had a question in my inbox, and I feel like I'm gonna make a video about that. Um, it's gonna be a quick one too, because it's just basically the question was, what do I think the difference is with boxing and MMA? They're not asking me as a sport, but more of the attraction from the sport to the fans. Okay, I will say this to start with. If you go on an MMA channel, page, whatever, you go on a boxing channel or page, on any social media, now you're always going to have criticism. People are always going to find something negative to harp on, and that's just so crazy in life that we just find the negative things to just try to point out about people. Now, addressing the situation, just trying to bring light and make sense of a situation, that's something different. But one thing that I will say that I definitely see a difference with MMA and boxing, the vast majority of MMA fans, they are looking forward to seeing great matches. The vast majority of boxing fans just complain, criticize, this guy's ducking this guy, he's overrated, this guy's not that. You see this constantly on boxing channels. Um, Another thing is, I think that what I see is MMA. Now, when you say MMA, people automatically think UFC because they are the biggest in MMA, and then people also you have Bellator. There's a whole lot of leagues, but those two are like the top two. But UFC, let's just say, put it like this: MMA in general, that UFC, you see them promote fights. Bellator promotes their fights. They do a better job, a much better job at promoting their entire card. Boxing just promote the main event, and then they'll have a guy say, "Also, we have a great undercard for you. We have such and such, this person, that person, this person." And most of the time, you don't even get to see like a press conference with the undercard guys. I mean, that's rare unless they're like unless it's like a double main event or somebody is up and coming on that card that they want to but put they get their profile up. Otherwise, you don't really hear from any undercard guys. You just don't. MMA promotes the whole card, man. Um, they do a much better job at promoting it. And like I said, man, like when people have issues, like certain fighters may have been tested positive for some type of performance enhancing drug or something like that. They'll talk about it, and people will they'll get at that person and say, "Oh, this person's a dirty fighter," especially if it happens more than once. But I mean, and like I said, you have criticism. Period. That's just people. But most of all, people get into MMA, they get more into the fights, and that's what they want to see. Boxing is more about he's a bitch, he's soft, this motherfucker been dug, oh he running, he had that, and it's just too much of that, and I guess you can't even enjoy the sport because all we do is pick nonsense to just this guy's this guy's that, this guy's this guy's this guy's that. Um, Another thing is, okay, now just because you are a biased diehard fan does not mean that you're because you're biased doesn't mean you're a diehard fan. Okay, that bias is just being biased. That's on either side. But MMA fans more than boxing fans, they'll stick up for MMA. Boxing fans are just more like they're not loyal as far as the sport of boxing. It's more like certain fighters, right? An example is when James Toney fought Randy Couture. There was no MMA guys rooting for Randy. I mean for James Toney, at least not openly. You know what I mean? Now, if somebody hate Randy and wanted to see him get beat up or something, that could be something different. But I mean, overall, no, they're cheering for the person representing their sport. And James Toney got in the octagon knowing he wasn't ready. And between the two, Randy was making the most sense because Randy said, if I got in a boxing ring, James Toney would probably knock me out. But James Toney was defending boxing, which You're not defending boxing. You are, but you're not because you're not an MMA guy. James Tony felt like a sack of bricks. He just grabbed his leg and like he just lost his balance and like little moves he like. Yeah, I mean, you didn't see the boxing world behind James Tony. They wasn't behind him. When Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, the whole MMA community was like, yeah. And like I said, there may be people in MMA that hated Conor, that so they wanted to see him lose. But I mean, as far as the sport, oh, they were all sticking together. And even when he got his ass kicked, hey man, we proud of you. And it took the best fighter, best boxer in the world, 10 rounds to finally get you. You were just tired. I mean, you did a great job. Anybody could see Floyd carry Conor just to make it an event. He could have got Conor out of there anytime he wanted to. I mean, come on, like guys smiling. I mean, Floyd wasn't even sweating, man. Anyway, but the boxing world wasn't behind Floyd. You had guys that were saying, "Yeah, I'll train Conor." It wouldn't help. He still would have got his ass kicked. But Conor completely showed disrespect to boxing. He wanted to use his striking team, his MMA guys to go. He felt like what he was going to bring was going to be more or something different from what Floyd was used to. Skip Bayless was saying it. Everybody was, oh yeah, it's different. And believe me, Conor's going to hit him and he's going to knock him out. And Conor himself was confident because when he saw Floyd in person, he's like, he's too small, and he thought he had it in the bag. Then I guess he slapped Paulie Malignaggi around, at least according to him, that little bullshit video clip. But and I guess he felt like Floyd is in the same situation as Paulie. Paulie is no Floyd Mayweather by any stretch. But boxing didn't stick together. These guys were like hating on Floyd. They were jealous of Floyd. They had people now. This was a boxing match, so yeah, it went on his record. If he would have went in MMA in a cage and fought Conor, it wouldn't have went on his boxing record because it's MMA. But people would have just loved to see Floyd get beat. Just to say, yeah, he got his ass kicked and we get to see it over and over if that's what would have happened, right? More than likely, I mean, unless Floyd catch him and knock him out, pretty much that's Conor's house. But the MMA community stuck together. The boxing community didn't stick together. Another thing, okay, there's no loyalty there. Another thing with boxing have different sanctioning bodies. They have all, IBF, WBC, WB, all these different personalities. In MMA, it's like, no, it's the owner of the company, then you have whoever's doing what, but no. And the title represents the company. It's not a different branch of the company and all. It's just, it is one sanctioning body. That's it. Um, Another thing that MMA does a better job of promoting the fights and getting the fighters known, because one thing I've definitely noticed between boxing and MMA, you got the biggest fight of the year coming up in boxing. The building is half empty until the main event starts. Unless the guy before the main event has a name too or something like that. I mean, but overall, like, it's just empty. Nobody's there. It's quiet. And then, they fill up the building by main event time. In MMA, that building is packed from the very first fight to the last. Um, it's a different environment, and the mentality is the people who are into MMA mostly, they love to see a great fight. And that's all they talk about. Oh, I want to see this guy versus that guy. Oh, this guy versus this guy versus this guy. Boxing, we always have to put a twist on who we want to see fight. And it's just too much, like I said, nitpicking with everything. So, I mean, those are the differences. Um, those are the differences that I see in boxing and MMA. Now, what you like more, that's up to each his own. But I think that, yeah, definitely MMA does a better job of promoting. And like I said, they promote the whole card. They don't just promote just the main event. That's a big mistake that boxing has been making forever, man. Boxing is still old fashioned in a lot of ways in the way they do things, and they have to make these adjustments and changes to where people have to care about the fighters on the card. When nobody knows who you are, they don't have a reason to watch you. I mean, look at a talent like Gary Russell. Barely anybody knows who the fuck Gary Russell is. You talk about super fast hands, punching power, boxing ability. I mean, Gary Russell's a complete fighter, but who knows? I mean, there's other fighters out there that I know of. only because I do my homework on these guys and I, watch, and I'll sit and watch fights whether I know who you are or not. Most people are like, I don't know him, you know. But overall, the one thing that hasn't changed and that still remains is that no matter how popular an MMA fighter is, no matter how many endorsements they get, and they may be all over cereal boxes and sneak, different outfit shirts and stuff like that, so they don't even make close to what the top boxers make, and in MMA, they don't even make close to that. Um, I mean, you got guys like Joshua making 30,000 million a fight, Canelo 30 million of stuff, but MMA guys are not pulling that in, not in one goddamn fight. No, like they might make that in their career. They might not even make that in their whole career in MMA. Now, take the endorsements and stuff away. Now, you know what I'm saying? Just getting paid from MMA, hell no, hell no. But overall, I mean, those are the differences that I see with boxing and MMA. And let me say this: let's just say if any boxer would have went like James Toney and like Floyd or whoever, yeah, they would have had to had an MMA trainer to show them, how to sprawl, how to lock up, how to, it's not just as simple as it sounds because it's actual disciplines that you're learning. You got wrestlers, you got, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you got guys that have different styles, man. You know what I'm saying? So people do taekwondo, they have certain styles, so it's not like one particular thing that you're teaching. It's a lot to learn to go in there and be the highly skilled MMA guy, but and vice versa. For MMA guy's not going to jump in it just because he's sparring and striking MMA and be a high level boxer, okay, for the most part. But what I'm saying now, imagine Floyd, to make my point about what I said about what James Toney did and what Conor did. Not so much with James Toney. James Toney is just lazy, man. And well, yeah, what James Toney did too, because I seen him like trying to at least practice a little choke from behind that was half-assed and sloppy. But imagine Floyd going in there to fight Conor in the MMA cage and saying, "Oh nah, I don't need no MMA training. All I need is Leonard Ellaby, my uncle, or my dad or whoever, and we're gonna train boxing and boxing alone." Now, if he doesn't get the knockout and they get him on the ground, he's in trouble. You understand? So, basically, that's what Conor did. So what I'm saying, he went into a boxing match. He said he had some amateur experience, so it's not like he never boxed. But he basically, for that $100 million shit, he was in there. Floyd made 300 million. So basically, he went in there feeling like he had enough to beat Floyd because Floyd was too small. He was confident, and plus Floyd was so much smaller, so he wasn't worried. And that just turned out to not be the case in the end. But yeah, those differences with MMA and boxing that I named, those are the differences. Those are the differences, man, that I see. Anyway, what you like is what you like, but that's all I'm going to say in this video. Catch y'all on the next one.